Hi everyone, I just thought I'd make another video about an article I saw in the Daily Mail. I'm just going for a walk. This has been my regular haunt now for about a week. It's quite nice, so I'm just going to walk and talk with you. The article was about, well, it was a shocking article really. It was related to vitamin D and COVID, which is interesting. Basically, it was a former MP that was looking at this study, okay, and the research crew were the Social Science Research Network, so very technical, and it was basically very simple. It was saying using vitamin D as COVID treatment reduces deaths by 60%, the study claims. 60%. It's almost like they have an answer then. Regardless of all these vaccines, right? You have to excuse me, I think I've got allergies or something like that, and my eyes are watering. It's pretty windy here, so if you can't hear me, that's too well, that's probably why. Yeah, 60%. And it was a study done in a hospital, and it sounds legit, and it just reminds me that this really isn't old knowledge, is it, when you think about it? It's obvious, vitamin D, sunlight, right? That's why I'm outside. I think people, well, we've known this for ages. It's just common sense. I think, well, we've known this since the beginning of time, really. We know that sunlight heals, and it can help kill infections and things like that. So, but when they say it, it sounds like it's a massive breakthrough, doesn't it? And it reminds me of something, a saying that's daylight robbery. You've probably heard that saying, right? And there's a reason, there's a history behind that saying. I made some little notes in my notepad here, and I can't find them now. It's basically, daylight robbery was when King of England put up tax for windows. Apparently, this is according to the internet. The Wikipedia. It was in 1696. William III of England, introduced property tax. Anybody with more than 6 windows would be taxed a levy, and people would brick the windows up. And apparently, you could still see now bricked up windows from there. It actually ended in 1851, apparently. And the term daylight robbery was basically invented because of that, really. And why were they doing that? Why were they taxing people's sunlight? Because it seems they knew back then sunlight was a massive factor of overall health. And this is another point. For hundreds of years or thousands of years, right, these same kind of people have always sought to control us. I think Thomas Sheridan's work on psychopaths really exposes that. They've always sought ways to keep us down, and starvation, controlling our diet, and controlling our environment. This is hundreds of years old, and sunlight's one of them. Vitamin D is one of them. They might not have known vitamin D back then, but they sure knew that sunlight had an impact on our health. So they were doing it back then. And so yeah, same shit, different century, really. Because what they're saying now with the lockdown, they're telling you isolate, stay indoors, don't go outside if necessary, and they're arresting people for driving a little out of their tier, for walking their dogs in environments like this, getting the most of the sunlight, especially well, it's spring now pretty much, but especially in the winter time you want to make the most of it. They were arresting people, fining people apparently, even throwing people in jail, right? And they still are probably. So they just basically sent alarm bells ringing there. Kind of connecting to this is Big Pharma. I was reading an article on Facebook somebody put up about how multivitamin pills, when they're invented, I think it was the Rockefeller Foundation or some group of people like that, the part of the psychopathic control grid probably, they realised that these multivitamin supplements and tablets could seriously increase people's health. They could prevent disease, and they could probably prolong people's lives. They were very effective, but they also realised they couldn't patent them, they couldn't own them, because when you think of it, it took modern technology to make a multivitamin, right? They're produced in factories. It takes a certain maybe amount of science and knowledge to actually understand this, but once you have it, it's pretty basic. Unlike Big Pharma and unlike pharmaceutical drugs and things like that. And so, yeah, you don't hear much about multivitamins. They're always never really spoken of, but they realised obviously they could patent their own medications and make money off that. But it's more than that. I think it's about the same principle of keeping the population weak, meek and ill. It goes back, I think I had a book called I've got a book, I still have it somewhere. I think it's called The Idiot's Guide to the Crusades. They were like, I don't know who made them, but there's a whole load of books. So you've got the Crusades, you've got all sorts of topics. It's very basic, easy read. And they were explaining, the book explained about the how the kings at the time kept their population, general population, weak and meek by basically they weren't really eating food. They weren't allowed to hunt. I'm sure I remember a video Thomas Sheridan covered about diet and how it affects people, and it reminds me of that actually. It was very good because they wouldn't allow them to hunt meat, they wouldn't allow them to fish. And they wouldn't even allow them proper farming equipment, proper metal to make effective farming equipment. So they would it was all wooden, and they were only allowed so many horses or donkeys or whatever, so they'd have a few oats, and they would be so hungry they would eat grass. Apparently these are our ancestors. This is in England, probably all through Europe as well. They were so hungry that they had to eat this. They had to eat grass and things they couldn't digest properly. And when they would piss, it would hurt, it would burn, and they would call it holy fire. This is the word that they called it. It's awful, isn't it? And this is what they did to us. So yeah, even though we live in a modern world with science, we're still being controlled, really, I think, by the same kind of people, the same archetypes, as Thomas put it, are alive today as they were in olden times. I think Thomas is right when these psychopaths, they have the same mentality about us that they did hundreds of years ago. They hate us, and they always want us meek, weak, and that has not changed. So, and another thing on this article about the vitamin D, and other articles I've seen, why do they release this if it's so contradicting to what they're saying about trust the vaccine, trust the science, etc., etc. You know, it seems 60% vitamin D treatment in this hospital, a simple treatment, could cure 60% of COVID cases. That's a lot, right? So, you know, years ago, I listened to people's theories on why do these people in control put out conflicting, contradicting material like this, and you know, the whole Illuminati topic. You know, I don't really like that word anymore, but you know, they like to maybe put the information out, put the truth out. This is one person's theory, and I kind of agree with this. I think it's very likely it could be true. They want to give us a fighting chance, believe it or not, because they believe that they're smarter than us, they can outwit us. They're basically they're an opponent, you know, and they've always, for a long time at least, for a good few thousand years, had the upper edge when what we call modern civilization sprung up. You know, farming, agriculture and things like that. But yeah, so they believe that they are naturally better than us, so they can give us that fighting chance by actually putting out the truth. And you can say that, this is true in books. Thomas has covered this, and lots of other people. Sci-fi books, science fiction. Well, they put their truth out there in science fiction format, but these little news articles, I think, are the same. So yeah, okay, are they telling the truth? And they're saying, okay, those who are smart enough to figure this out, we'll leave them alone. But also, it could be confusing to confuse us as well, to overload us with information. So at the end of the day, we're saying, I just don't know what to believe anymore. You know, what the hell, to psychologically break us down. But that could be a test as well for those to separate, those who are more intelligent, to separate the wheat from the chaff and say, no, this is the truth and this is crap. So it could be that too, I think. With all the what we call disinformation, we have to pick the truth from the lies. And there's definitely Thomas brought this up, or maybe I think he may be the only one. The whole mocking, and he calls it burlesquing, which is a actual real word. I definitely think it's that as well. They're taking the piss because they know that most people are afraid, are indoors, locking themselves up away from sunlight and vitamin D, and they know that this is what we should be doing naturally. You know, and this is instinctive as well. This is following your instincts. They know we should be outdoors doing things. For example, I just thought of this. It's probably mainly in European people, but in cold weather, we have something. It's a response mechanism in our bodies that makes our fingers go red. Apparently, like now. You know, when you're out in real cold weather, not so much like this, but I can feel it now. When it's snowing and things like that, and you're a kid, you get flushed cheeks, and you get red, and your ears get red, and they burn, and your fingers, especially the tips of your hands, get red and they burn. I think that is a response mechanism in our bodies to circulate blood around our bodies, especially in small areas where frostbite is more likely to happen. It's a protective mechanism. Your body actually seems to get hot, the opposite of cold. We have this, I think mainly Europeans have it. I think there was some kind of scientific test, but there was an African person and a European person on a boat or something like that, and they dipped their hands in the cold water and drew it out and found how long it took to heat up, but also other things like other responses within the body, like I just said. So, but you're only going to stimulate this really from being active and being outside. This is instinctive. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I'm sure they know this as well. Yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it for now. I thought I'd bring that up. I made notes, and I like to talk about this before I forget it. I often do that. I see something, or I watch one of Thomas's videos or somebody else, and it sparks something, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I don't want to talk about it to somebody, but as you know, it's very difficult to talk to most people, including, you know, old friends and members of your family. So again, I hope you like the video, and yeah, speak to you soon. Thanks, cheers.